Hi guys, welcome back to Lex Alexis. It's been a while since I posted, apologies on that. Today I'm going to round up all of the transfer news that has taken place, which is shaping up to be a very intriguing 25-26 championship season. And in the second half of the video I'm going to talk through all the speculation and rumours that seem to be circling around at this moment in time, which I'm going to give you my reaction of too. If you guys like what you see and want to see more of these transfer breakdowns, might do them once a week, please do smash the like button. It really does help the growth of this channel. 30 likes would be absolutely appreciated. Please do hit the subscribe button too. It really does help as we're trying to get to 3,000 subscribers. Each subscription really does mean the world to me, and it really does not go unnoticed. To show my appreciation, again, here are a couple more of you who have chosen to subscribe to the channel, and it is massively appreciated. A shout out goes to Bright Amehi, the Mario Hub, Dick Warriby, Martin Wall, Almighty Afro 300, Net Nets, Alan England, Harry, Sam Absolute Football, Luis Annabel Gomez, Zachary Harden, John Jones, Paris Hughes, and Neva Kartik. I'm sorry if I mispronounced that. Thank you guys, all of you, for choosing to spare your time on this channel. It really massively helps as well. And if you could share the channel too, it really does help the growth of this channel. But it's been long overdue, guys. Let's give you my reaction to the latest transfers and to see how each team is looking going into the 25-26 championship season. Birmingham have been a bit proactive in this window as of now. 3 people have come into the club. 2 of them have already had experience in terms of playing in Birmingham from last season. The one transfer that really does stand out to me is managing to get back Taylor Garner-Hickman, someone with championship experience who was around, especially with Bristol City. I think he is going to be a very important player within that Birmingham squad. Not necessarily going to start most games, but he will be a very important option for that midfield position. Blackburn have gone a little bit more rogue with their transfer business at the moment. They have got one ingoing in. They've managed to get Dion De Neve from, I believe it's the Belgium league that they managed to get him from. I do think Dion De Neve is one I can't lie, don't know too much about, but we've seen it before with these players that we just don't know much about, but then they take the championship by storm. And I do wonder if Dion De Neve is going to be one of those players. Now, lots of news has been put on Bristol City, not necessarily by their transfers, but by their managerial situation, which I will touch upon going into the rumours section, because as of recording, it might change later today, that Bristol City is still looking for a new manager to replace Liam Manning. One outgoing is a little bit notable is Cal Naismith. He does go to Luton Town in the end, so I do think this will be certainly a notable absence, but I think Bristol City was so good already on that position of the pitch. I actually think they will be able to find a way to cope without the likes of Cal Naismith going around in that squad there. So I think Bristol City are still in great shape, but what they need to be doing is prioritising to try and get a new manager in as soon as possible, because right now I think certainly if they do get someone new in terms of a manager, someone exciting, I think that will start to really thrive with more speculation and more transfer business. Charlton's transfer business, you can argue, has been pretty good in considering that they managed to keep Nathan Jones tied down to a long-term contract. He was linked with the move for Cardiff City in the end. Cardiff City have gone for Brian Barry Murphy, the Leicester coach, I believe, from last season, as their manager. So good bit of business for Charlton to keep him on. And in terms of transfer activity, they've got one ingoing and one outgoing, which I think is quite notable. Sonny Carey has managed to make the transfer from League One Blackpool to Charlton. I think certainly a player I've kept my eye on the odd time, and I think will be a decent fit for Charlton. But one outgoing which I think will be quite crucial to them is Thierry Small. He leaves Charlton to join another championship club in Preston North End, who've made quite a few signings so far actually in this window. young, upcoming fullback, 20 years of age. Certainly one that may or may regret letting go in the way that they did. But if they do get someone in to fill in that position who can have a similar amount of experience potentially, I think Charlton can find their way out of it. But I am liking the fact that Charlton are being proactive. They're not quite sitting on the fence in terms of their business so far. They have been linked with a couple of players, which I'll talk about in my rumours section really soon. So Charlton are certainly, no mugs. They're certainly wanting to try and make a big splash and just get some really good quality in to attack this upcoming championship season. Coventry's transfer business has been a little bit quiet, but the main outgoing I can potentially think of is Jamie Patterson. He's dropped down a league to join Plymouth Argyle. Very good business for Plymouth to get him. I think that is certainly going to make Plymouth a favourite, or at least will give them a good option for Plymouth to attack League One. Is it going to affect Coventry? I don't think it will massively hinder Coventry's chances from this upcoming season, but I certainly do want to see Coventry do a little bit more in terms of ingoings, because I do think the transfer window as it stands is going to be a very important factor for how teams are going to cope with the longevity of the championship season. The quality this year is going to be insane. So Coventry need to put their foot down and mean business and not be hesitant to get players in, because they have been a little bit guilty before of not quite stepping up to the mark in terms of getting their squad ready in time for the season, and it's resulted in their slow starts which they typically have in the season. Derby, in all honesty, have had a very quiet window, which I'm not massively surprised with. They've had more outgoings potentially. Sonny Bradley joining the league below for Wickham, and in terms of Marcus Harness, he has joined Huddersfield Town. I think a good signing for Huddersfield's point of view as well. So I'm not massively shocked that Derby haven't made too much business at the moment. They don't really need to do too much of a squad. If anything, I think their squad needs trimming down ever so slightly, and they're certainly doing that at the moment. So nothing to report for Derby. Hull City have actually been one of the more interesting clubs in terms of their preparations for the 25-26 season. So ingoing's point of view, they've got Rina Lalui, I think that's how I say it, Lalui, I think. They've got him on a fee rumoured to be around €250,000. A winger, I think, again, an interesting option. And they managed to get a very reliable goalkeeper in Dillon Phillips, who has played in the Championship before, with Rotherham, of course. And actually, he has been involved, I believe, with Cardiff as well, if I remember too. So they've got a goalkeeper out of contract who has had Championship experience as well, who can bring decent competition to the goalkeeping position, which I think is great. And then we're not even talking about their new manager, Sergej Jakirovic. And again, I can't lie, don't know too much about him, but is it going to be another one where we not really quite sure what to expect and people assume that they're going to struggle because of that? Or would he be one of those silent ones that just comes in, does their job, and just has a way to get the best out of that squad and to really attack the league? I would point to a very similar comparison in terms of that point of view with Gerard Struber, who is going to be someone we'll be talking about in a minute, and potentially Valerian Ismail, kind of unknown quantities going into this league and kind of proving people wrong and really overperforming from the resources that they have. I'm hoping Jakirovic could be one of those managers. It is a very interesting appointment. In terms of outgoings point of view for Hull, really the only ones to make note, Xavier Simons is now actually staying at Bolton Wanderers now on a fee of around €350,000, and Amrabat leaving Watford to Wydad AC. Ipswich, for me, have had a very mixed bag window. They are going to be very happy with the money they raised for Liam Delap and is already making a great difference for Chelsea, which is great. But the one thing that they may regret is the sale of Cameron Burgess. Not only losing him to a free transfer, but losing him to a Championship rival in Swansea City. 29 years of age is a really good age still, I believe, for a defender. You can get at least 3 or 4 years out of it. So, good business for Swansea. Is that going to be a transfer that Ipswich regret come near, the start point of the season? We'll have to wait and see. They certainly need to prioritise that defensive position now. And I still think they need a very competent striker who can score 20 goals in the Championship if Ipswich are going to try and back their chances of going immediately back up to the Prem. This is taking a while, but Leicester City, really the only business that we are waiting to see from them is to see who on earth will replace Ruud van Nistelrooy. The fact that they've not really confirmed that he has departed, is still a little bit surprising to me. They have been linked with a whole host of managers, so I feel like we will be waiting to see what sort of development will happen in that role. In terms of an outgoing, they've lost Daniel Iverson to Preston. He returns to the club he previously spent, I believe, on loan, I think in 2021. I remember when I did my collaboration with Ben HD, which is quite a throwback. He was one of the two players that fall into the trap of never falling in love with a loan player. But good news, Preston fans, you don't need to worry about that anymore, because Preston have managed to secure him on a permanent transfer, a free transfer. So good things comes to those who wait, and I think Preston will be very pleased to see someone like Daniel Iverson return to the Lily Whites. Now, Middlesbrough have been quite quiet with their business, but I'm not massively shocked because they dismissed Michael Carrick very, very recently, and certainly, I don't know, a kick around at Soccer Aid was really going to help with that disappointment, but I think certainly from Middlesbrough's point of view, with who they're linked with a whole host of some really promising managers who I think could do well at this level. The favourite as it stands, and I'll jump ahead with a rumour since this is really the only news I can associate with Middlesbrough at the moment, is Rob Edwards. Now, of course, Rob Edwards, can he bounce back from the disappointment of being you could argue the size of a contribution to Luton's relegation to the Championship from there to League One last season? I don't know, but it'll be an interesting appointment, I think. And certainly Rob Edwards has proven to do well at this level with a whole host of new players in a squad and getting the best out of them. And I think it will be interesting. Personally, I would say Steve Cooper would be the best one for results, just not for the style of football. And I think Rob Edwards kind of falls in between that, where he can get a good versatility in his style of football, and, he's had good success in this league. So, potentially a good move that Middlesbrough are making. Although, if Gary O'Neill's available, I would certainly consider trying to get him on as well, considering he has been involved in Middlesbrough as a player. So, Middlesbrough have got a plethora of options. But the managerial merry-go-round, as I'm going to discuss in the rumour section later, is going to be absolutely manic for the top clubs this year. Millwall, the only news I've really got to report on them is their outgoings. We kind of expected Zion Fleming to, get a permanent move to Burnley in a fee of around €8 million. Good bit of money raised from Millwall there. In terms of 2 free transfers, moving players on to lower leagues, George Saville has joined Luton Town. So Luton Town already gained some good experience in their back line. Not much to report on for Millwall here. But in direct contrast, we've got Norwich, who have made some significant business as it stands. 3 transfers. Jacob Wright from Man City, got him in very, very early on. Dan Greenshaw as a goalkeeping option from Plymouth Argyle, I think is interesting. But the one I'm quite excited by is Harry Darling. He is in his mid-20s still, a really promising player who can actually have a couple of really good consecutive seasons in him. And this is going to be the influence of Liam Manning being the new Norwich City manager. Norwich fans, let me know if your reaction of Liam Manning as the new Norwich manager in the comments down below. I think it is an upgrade on Johannes Thorup, I cannot lie, especially with the terrific job he did with Bristol City. And I'm already seeing for the fact with Harry Darling, he's already worked with Liam Manning, of course, at MK Dons. So I think there was a small bit of that pushed Harry Darling to lean towards playing for Norwich to work with Liam Manning again. So can he have a decent pool of trying to attract more promising players in? There's certainly a couple that I can think of. Well, I have got Oxford there, but in all honesty, nothing really has happened with Oxford at this moment. And I'm not shocked. Their budget is not particularly big. Gary Rowett, I think, is certainly going to work harder to try and keep and retain players in that squad, because I think there will be some interest for a lot of their players. But it's so hard to summarize where you don't really have anyone majorly, big fat has come in. So still waiting for Oxford to enter the game in terms of getting ingoings for next season. Portsmouth similarly have had a quiet window as well. Not really much to report on. Yengi has left Portsmouth to join Aberdeen in the Scottish League for a free transfer. But really apart from that, nothing too major to report on for Portsmouth, although they have been linked with a couple of players, which I think I will discuss very soon in my rumours section of this video. I already mentioned it, but Preston mean business. They've got some players in. They've got 4 ingoings, all from this division as well. So that is already a really, really good sign. Thierry Small, I like that transfer. I actually think it's a very positive and forward-thinking signing for Preston. The others are a little bit more experienced in their own ways in terms of their age, but I do think they will be good squad players, like Paul Valentine from Sheffield Wednesday. Not necessarily the strongest defender individually, but can be a good option for Preston when they rely upon it and if they're running low on defenders. Dan Iverson, great. A bit of a sentimental signing potentially, but if he is number 1, I actually think that's a good upgrade in that position of the pitch. And Jordan Thompson from Stoke. Not really the most outstanding player in the world, but again, someone who can do the job when called upon. Only outgoing, Ryan Ledson has joined Huddersfield in the league below. Huddersfield building one hell of a team under Lee Grant at the moment. QPR similarly have had very little to report on. Obviously, they are a club with huge speculation over their managerial position as well. In terms of an ingoing, they've not really got anyone new, but the major bit of news for them, I say, is they've managed to retain Kemoko Dembele. Did really, really well when he joined from January from Brest, and I actually think he's doing relatively well, so I'm really pleased for QPR, but they managed to get this one sorted. Sheffield United, so what do I say with them? The news is really down to the future of Chris Wilder. And what we've heard recently, again not fully confirmed, but what we've heard of with reliable sources is that Chris Wilder is going to be sacked. He's going to dismiss himself as Sheffield United's manager. Harsh or not, is this one of the harshest managerial sackings in Championship history? I certainly could think of more harsh sackings than this, but I think certainly with the circumstances, it's not quite, I think doing a bit of a disservice of what Chris Wilder has been able to do with that Sheffield United squad, but it's ruthless stuff for Sheffield United at the moment. They really want to go back up to the Prem, but it's a massive risk, and I'll discuss in a minute who they're linked with at the moment, because there's a couple of really interesting names that they're linked with at the moment. Sheffield Wednesday's summer has been very, very tumultuous. So obviously there has been real controversy of Shansiri with the cash flow problems, managers and players not being paid on time, demanding Danny Rowe to start the season preparation sooner than normal despite not being paid. Oh, it could get really, really messy. Sheffield Wednesday fans, how do you look at a situation currently at your club? Is the only outcome to try and just pray to see that some rich ownership will buy the club off Shansiri? Or is it just having to try and ride the storm, potentially take all the punishments? Because at this moment of time, with this, because if he doesn't pay his players on time again for this month, I think that's 2 breaches of late payments, and that is when we can start having conversations, or the EFL will start having conversations about embargoes, could even talk about points deductions, depending on the severity of it. We've had various other rules being broken from Championship clubs, and a whole range of different punishments being get out. It doesn't really feel consistent, but Sheffield Wednesday do not need that in terms of their preparation. And then obviously we spoke about Valentin leaving as well. So certainly Sheffield Wednesday squad is not looking particularly strong at the moment. Lots of players linked to moves away, lots of players entering their final year, their contracts. So could potentially see a small max exodus with Sheffield Wednesday if things are not resolved soon. Southampton, they've made some steady business at this moment. They've made one signing from Hoffenheim, Josh Kwashi, for about 3.5 million euros. Interesting option. I think is this going to be like the next Bundesliga defender they signed after Bela Kotchap? I think that was another one that they got from Bundesliga as well, who proved to be okay as a whole. In terms of an outgoing, the only one really of note is Amiel for 7 million from to Strasbourg actually. So I think a decent fee on the young right winger actually. So I think again Southampton have got money to spend, and I think this is going to be a very important part of Southampton's success this season, depending on what sort of decisions they make about improving their squad. Stoke looked to have had a slow start in the transfer window, although they did recently sign Sorba Thomas from Huddersfield Town. So obviously we associated Sorba Thomas as being one of the star players from when Huddersfield were in the Championship for a couple of seasons. Can he step up and show that same level at Stoke? Not going to be easy, but I am intrigued to see how he gets on back at the Championship level. I've kind of actually missed reminiscing and just gawking about how good Sorba Thomas was for Huddersfield. So I'm pleased from my point of view that we're going to see him again in the Championship, hopefully bringing Stoke lots of success. Spoke about Swansea very briefly. Ricardo Santos from Bolton on a free transfer. They got Bobby Wales in, a centre forward from Kilmarnock for a fee of around 300,000 euros. And they've got Zinedine Inusa, left winger from Häcken as well, for 6 million euros. So Swansea are making moves. They're making business at the moment. And I'm quite excited to see how Swansea get on with that. Obviously, with loads of signings, it will take a lot for them to gel in time. But if Swansea have a pretty steady pre-season schedule, which I believe they do, I think that'll be a good opportunity to get those players mixed and playing really, really competitively. So I'm quite excited to see how Swansea do, especially with their transfer business already. They've got really good first expectations. Watford have made a couple of transfers. One actually that I've not spoken about in terms of the manager situation. So they got Pezzolano as their new manager. Tom Cleverley was dismissed and has joined Plymouth Argyle in the league below. Interesting move for Tom Cleverley. I think certainly again Plymouth are building for what looks like to be a very decent team with decent a manager at least at that level. Ingoings for Watford, they got Kyprianou, I believe from Peterborough. Mark Bowler, you'll remember him, he used to play for Middlesbrough in the Championship, spent a season I believe in Turkey for Samsunspor. Watford managed to get him in for a free transfer. And Nathan Baxter managed to get from a goalkeeper's point of view as well. And that's pretty much it for Watford. I haven't really lost anyone too major. What a marathon. We finally made it to Wrexham. And actually yesterday, I was going to record this video, but within minutes of me planning for it, they signed Ryan Hardy from Plymouth. Good signing for Wrexham. And they have been signed with lots of players. They've not got a lot of those players in at the moment. It's just merely rumours and interest and speculation at the moment. And certainly with getting someone like Ryan Hardy in, they have got the ability of attracting players with relegated clubs to the Championship level. So I do think Wrexham are going to be a side that will be actively recruiting. Certainly they will be someone that I'll be keeping my eye on to see if they adjust well to this level. But I think this is a good statement of intent for Wrexham as it stands. And just like that, guys, we've made it to the rumours section of this video. So still more to report. Sheffield United with Chris Wilder. So it does feel like to me he will be leaving. We've already discussed this. But who's going to come in? That's another question in itself. So Gary O'Neill was linked pretty heavily with that managerial position. But only recently, it feels like Ruben Sellers is now the favourite to join Sheffield United as their new manager. Does this move look risky to you? For me, if I was a businessman looking about the successes of Sellers and the expectations of Sheffield United, this would be a massive risk. But what we've seen with Ruben Sellers is that he's actually been able to perform major miracles with Reading and a minor miracle with Hull City, with two very different situations for both of those clubs. Sheffield United is going to be one of the toughest jobs, I think, to get in the Championship, because we've seen already now with 92 points, it doesn't guarantee job security. And the expectation is really going to be promotion. There's no doubt about it at all costs. So I would probably be thinking of someone who is certainly good enough to be a very good manager at this level, and someone who can pick up good results against the teams around them. And Ruben Sellers maybe does fit the mold for that. I just think the whole situation feels like it's spiraled into something here. So I will be intrigued to see the developments of Sheffield United and whether there will be a managerial change in the next couple of days. So now on the other clubs, we've already spoken about Middlesbrough with Rob Edwards potentially returning to Middlesbrough. I think that would be a good move for Middlesbrough if they get him in. But one interesting one is Bristol City. So of course they lost Liam Manning recently to Norwich. Certainly they were not happy with that and were quite sad in how quickly he did leave. But it does feel like to me Gerard Struber is the manager who is the favourite to join Bristol City. Throwback time, Gerard Struber was one of the very first managers I covered on this channel, because he joined Barnsley, it was in the 1920 season, and the 1920 Championship season was the very first season I ever did coverage on my channel for. And one thing I did remember about Struber, very outspoken when he needs to be, quite ruthless, quite bold, but very attacking in this style of play, which was something very different that Barnsley were used to. And I think Bristol City will certainly be expecting a manager who will be wanting to be on the front foot, very aggressive, and certainly I can sense if Gerard Struber does come into Bristol City, they'll attract so much interest. I'm already thinking of the likes of Michael Healick from Oxford. I feel like there could be maybe a chance of a possible reunion on the cards if Struber wants to try and reunite with Healick from Oxford. I'm going to be interested to see the movements going in and out from Bristol City in the next couple of days. So in terms of players, I think we've covered pretty much everything from managers. I've got a couple that I found. Tyler Dibling, certainly one of the shining lights of Southampton, if you can say that there was any shining light at all. Newcastle and Porto have shown interest on the young striker from Southampton. I think Porto would be, to even get interest from Porto, I think it's huge for Dibling. So personally, it does feel like to me that if they can get, I think it was 100 million price tag that Southampton want, ambitious to say the least, but if they do get that off, that would be an amazing bit of business from Southampton to raise that money on a young player who I wouldn't say is unproven, but certainly still has more to improve, more to offer on their game. So certainly a very interesting situation with Tyler Dibling. Ollie McBurney is the sort of inevitable player who gets linked with a move almost every other season now. He's not really quite settled now, since he's had his previous championship successes. He's been jumping around clubs, and recently with Las Palmas, and it didn't turn out to be a good season with him at all, unfortunately. It's Hull City who has shown interest in Ollie McBurney at the moment. I feel like they certainly need more firepower, so I think Ollie McBurney can offer that, but can he score the same amount of goals as he has done previously? I'm not so sure. I feel like this one will be a good option player, but I don't see him as a starting striker now these days, unfortunately. One striker hot in demand is Joe Gelhardt. Birmingham have shown interest, and certainly I think his performance when he was at loan from Hull last season, I think has certainly proven that he can offer some good, attacking play at this level. I'm a little bit more shocked that Hull are not trying to go in for him a little bit more, because Joe Gelhardt, especially in January, was very, very crucial to Hull's goal scoring form at one stage. I believe he scored 2 in one game when they managed to earn a draw near the end of the season as well. So I do think Joe Gelhardt has that in his locker and can be really, really good as well. Another link from Birmingham is Mickey Moore from Spurs. They're looking to try and loan the 18-year-old from Spurs. I think will be an interesting signing. Certainly would be good experience for him to get football at this level. Now, Preston have been linked with a reunion. So we've already had a reunion with the likes of Iverson. Could they get Callum Robertson back? Of course, Callum Robertson is now currently with a side who are in League One in Cardiff City. If he wants to play next season in the Championship, maybe a reunion to Preston could be on the cards. And I got to say, I think he was playing his best Championship football with Preston. I think since he moved to Sheffield United, when he made that move, I just don't think the career's been the same for him. And he was actually relied upon as like a striker for when he was with West Brom when they went up to the Premier League. So I do think taking a step back, maybe back to Preston, I think will make it, be beneficial for his career. And I think it will certainly be a very positive sign for Preston again. In terms of another Cardiff player linked with a move, Callum O'Dowda, Oxford United are interested. So I said already, Oxford have not made any signings. I think if they get Callum O'Dowda in, that will be a very positive signing for Oxford. So I'll keep my eyes peeled to see how that one goes. More transfers relating to Sheffield Wednesday. So Stuart Armstrong and Barry Bannon have both been linked with a move to Wrexham. So I've already spoken about the turbulence with Sheffield Wednesday at the moment, with players, either having 1 year on their contract or being out of contract, and clubs are certainly going to be trying to profit of that. And especially with Barry Bannon, who's been there for, I think the stat was 13 years now since moving from Aston Villa. I mean, it's an absolutely unbelievable servant for Sheffield Wednesday, and there is rumours that he does actually want to stay on for one more season. So it's only just pure speculation that he's been linked with the likes of Wrexham, and we know what Wrexham could offer fee-wise for it. So certainly won't be shocked if Wrexham do get a load of players in, but Barry Bannon to Wrexham will certainly be a very interesting one. And can't forget about Stuart Armstrong, a very experienced player at this level too. So interesting developments going around there. One League One player linked with so many transfers at the moment and from clubs is Ethan Galbraith. So he is, I believe, playing for Leyton Orient, and since Leyton Orient didn't go up for the playoffs, clubs in the Championship really like him. Charlton, who I did mention were linking with players, that was the player I was alluding to. Sheffield United and Swansea are also showing interest in Ethan Galbraith as well. I think will be an interesting signing if he does make that step up to the Championship. Has definitely shown that he can be a decent player in League One level. Couple last other rumours. Lewis Travis, a Blackburn player, very good for Blackburn. He's linked with a move to Derby, and that'll be interesting. So obviously this is going to be potentially reuniting with John Eustace, of course. So that's going to be interesting to see if there's going to be lots of movement from Blackburn to Derby following that change of manager in the manner that it happens. So I think Lewis Travis, if he does stay on with Blackburn could have another great season. However, it would be very interesting to see if a rivalry will start sparking between Blackburn and Derby if they do make these transfers. And I think someone as influential as Lewis Travis will certainly not make Blackburn fans very happy if he does leave them for Derby. And finally, one more transfer which I did spot just now. Tom Lawrence is currently a free agent, I believe. He spent last season with Rangers. Could he reunite with Frank Lampard and Coventry? So in his position, which I believe is a wide position, I could see him play in a very similar role to what Jamie Patterson did. So perhaps he could fill the void of Coventry losing Patterson, and they can gain someone like Tom Lawrence. I certainly think after everything that's happened off the pitch with Tom Lawrence, I don't think he's been the same exciting player as we've seen with any Championship club. But we have seen him play, I think, his best football under that Derby County side managed by Frank Lampard as well. So maybe this could be the revitalisation of Tom Lawrence's career that he's been wanting to seek an opportunity for. So I certainly see that a really good move for him. It's just a question whether Coventry really desperately needs someone like Tom Lawrence in their squad. Just like that, guys, it felt like forever, but I've now finished talking through the transfers. So I'm probably going to try and do this weekly, just so that I don't have to regurgitate so much and have a huge list of players to announce their transfers from. I mean, lo and behold, we could see so much more movement take place in the championship. If I've missed anyone, by the way, let me know in the comments down below, and I'll include them in next week's video as well. If you enjoyed, please like, subscribe, and share. All of that really helps. Thank you guys so much for watching. You guys are legendary for showing this video, and as always, I'll see you guys soon. Take care, everyone.